Very warm good evening to everybody, and welcome to the fourth session of Valence. As you all know, that Valence is a public journal club based in Aizawl, Kolkata, wherein we discuss the latest research related to chemistry and conduct paper discussion sessions amongst ourselves. And we plan on inviting the authors of the papers to our future sessions very soon. We are open for all to join, and we plan for many more exciting activities in the future, and we thank all our attendees who have joined in from various institutes for your interest, and we hope that you will thoroughly enjoy this session. For our attendees who have joined our Discord server, please feel free to put up any papers that you find interesting in the prospective papers channel. We will surely consider this for our next session, for which the voting will start soon. So enough about us. Let us get to business now. So today, one of our club members, Tahiti Dutt, a third year BSMS Chemical Science major at Aizawl, Kolkata, will present the paper titled TITAX that engage the asialoglycoprotein receptor for targeted protein degradation, which is published by Professor Caroline Bertozzi's group at Stanford University. Professor Bertozzi is a highly renowned chemist, especially known for her work on bioorthogonal chemistry, a term which she herself. I'll describe the structure of the session in short. First, we'll have the paper presentation by Taiti, which will then be followed by a discussion session where you can share your thoughts, ideas, aberrations, questions, doubts, anything with everyone present here. You can post these on the Google Meet chat at any time during or after the presentation. You can also raise your hand at the end of the presentation and talk, and we shall ask you to unmute and ask your questions or present your thoughts. However, we request you not to stop the presenter midway during their presentation. The post-talk discussion session shall be moderated by Siddharth Panda, a fifth-year BSMS Chemical Science major from the Bio-Inspired Catalysis and Materials, that is BICAM lab, headed by Professor Sam Sengupta at the Aizawl, Kolkata. So without much further ado, let us all welcome Tahiti to begin her presentation. Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. I am Tahiti, and I would like to thank Valence to give me this opportunity to present today. So, I will give a talk which is titled as Playing Light Acto Against Cancer. So, this talk is This talk is based on a paper published by Caroline Bertozzi Group in Nature Chemical Biology originally titled as LITAX that engage the asialoglycoprotein receptor for targeted protein degradation. So in this paper, what they have tried to show is that if they can degrade the membrane proteins which are responsible for causing cancer by synthesizing this LITAX, they have used the LITAX that can bind to these extracellular membrane proteins and take them into the lysosome and degrade it there. So first, before we go into the how these LITACs are made and how they help in protein degradation, I'm going to give a little introduction about the topic. So we all know that there are almost 20,000 human protein encoding genes and which encode 10 lakh human proteins. But there are so many types of proteins and a single gene, so it can encode multiple proteins. So how these multiple proteins actually form from these structures? So in the human genome, there is a gene which translates into which transcribes into the mRNA, and this mRNA then comes out of the nucleus into the cytoplasm, and it forms and it comes out of the nucleus, and it undergoes some and it translates into protein. These proteins undergo modification and form a lot of other proteins. So these other proteins, some of these proteins may behave as receptors. Some of these proteins are very useful for our body, like enzymes and hormones, and some of these proteins are harmful. That is, if they are overexpressed in the cells, then it can cause various diseases, one of them being cancer. So how do we try to control this disease, cancer, by targeting this protein for degradation. For that purpose, we get to know what are the receptor proteins. So the receptor proteins are present on the surface of the cell. They are receptive to various molecules, and they can transport the molecules outside of the cell into the cell if they are required by the cell. They also help to uh, fulfill the nutritional requirement. So there are various receptor proteins which are overexpressed on the cell surface during the cancer. So here we see that in liver cancer cells, the liver cancer EGFR receptor protein, EGFR is overexpressed. Then in pancreatic fucose receptors are overexpressed, pancreatic cancer. Then in prostate cancer, mannose 6 phosphate receptor may be overexpressed. So now these receptors, if they can be degraded in cancer cells, then this can actually have be a promising therapy for the cancer cells to control cancer. In this paper, what they have done is that they have used a molecule which has dual activity. That is, it is a dual targeting molecule. This one of the activity of the molecule is to target the protein, harmful protein, which we don't want, and another is to target a receptor protein so that this entire molecule may be internalized into the cell. So let's see how this is done. This is the protein which we want to degrade. This protein is this is a protein we want to degrade. So what we see, we apply the molecule in the cell line. So this head will bind with this protein, whereas the other head will bind with a receptor. This receptor we don't want to degrade. When this head binds with the receptor, then then receptor mediated endocytosis happens. It goes into the early endosome. From the early endosome, it goes into the late endosome. From late endosome, it the receptor, this pH here in the late endosome very low. So this interaction actually breaks, and the receptor is recycled and it goes onto the cell surface for the process to continue. And the other complex goes into the lysosome, and in lysosome it is degraded, and then it is pushed out of the cell. So now what is this dual targeting molecule called? These molecules are actually known as chimera molecules. So what is a chimera? Here we see this is an organism. It is a Greek mythological organism, animal. It has a head of a lion and another head of a goat. When you see that lion is a carnivorous animal and goat is a herbivorous animal, so they are totally different entities in in a single organism. So these type of organisms are called chimera. So how do we apply this in biological system? Here, what this paper is they have done is that they have synthesized LITAC. So LITAC are lysosome targeting chimeras. LITAC here have two complementary sites. I mean, these two groups that are in the LITAC attached with this linker, they cannot function without the other counterpart. So this group here binds with several proteins that are harmful proteins, that is extracellular proteins, the membrane proteins, the proteins we want to degrade. And this targeting ligand actually binds to the receptor so that receptor mediated endocytosis may happen, and this molecule may be carried into the lysosome and then degraded entirely. So there are other chimeras like in nucleus targeting chimeras, proteasome targeting chimeras, and mitochondria targeting chimeras. So here in this paper, what they have done is that they have synthesized this mannose 6 phosphonate based LITAC. What is this mannose 6 phosphonate based LITAC? They have taken an antibody and conjugated this polymer. Here this polymer has many mannose 6 phosphonate ligands. So these ligands actually recognize the mannose 6 phosphate receptor on the surface, and then the LITAC can go inside the cell into the lysosome and it get degraded. Then there is another type of LITAC which they have synthesized in this paper. That is N-acetyl galactosamine based LITAC. This is the tri-N-acetyl galactosamine ligand which has been conjugated with the antibody so that so that the LITACs can bind to other membrane and extracellular proteins and go inside the lysosome for degradation. So let's see how they have done this conjugation. So what is the strategy behind the fabrication of the LITAC? So what they have taken is that they have taken this as the ligand for joining for conjugation. This is the N-acetyl galactosamine part. This is the backbone chain, and this is DAPCO, dibenzyl cyclooctane. This is a strained alkyne. So, and they have taken the antibody and attached an azide chain with it. So this alkyne is very strange. So without any catalyst, if we give this alkyne into the antibody, it will click and form the LITAC after the click reaction. This has been characterized by SDS with gel electrophoresis. These are the three bands, and in lane 3, they have shown that this LITAC is being formed. After this, now we have made the LITAC. So is the LITAC going inside a lysosome? For that for that experiment, they have taken this rabbit IgG 647. This rabbit IgG 647 internalization they have observed, and if they have seen, does this rabbit IgG go into the lysosome or not? For now, this experiment they have visualized using live cell confocal imaging in Hep G2 cells. They have treated the cells with trackers. This is for nucleus, this is for lysosome. And first they have given IgG 647. See, an IgG 647 actually gives a red color under the confocal microscope. So here we see no red color in IgG. Well, the next experiment they give IgG 647 an anti-rabbit antibody, that is the antibody for this IgG, and they see there is some red color. The intensity has increased. There's some red color occurring due as some internalization in the lysosome may have taken place. This red color coincides with this lysotracker, so we can think that they have gone into the lysosome. And then they have given IgG 647 and this anti-rabbit NCSPN LITAC. So this is another LITAC which they have prepared for this particular antibody, and then see that the intensity has increased. That means it is going inside the lysosome. But when we use IgG 647 and antibody GAL NSE based LITAC, the intensity has hugely increased. That means that this protein is going inside the lysosome, and they have successfully proved that this can be trafficked to the lysosome. So after going to the lysosome, what happens? I mean, is this LITAC able to degrade proteins? Yes. The next experiment we will precisely see that here they have tried to see if the surface proteins, this is the cell membrane and the membrane protein, they can degrade a membrane protein or not. For that, they chose this membrane protein EGFR, and there is this antibody CTX which binds to EGFR. So they have used this antibody CTX and they have made the LITAC, and now they are seeing if this EGFR degradation is happening or not. Here they have visualized it again by live cell confocal imaging. They see that the LITACs, both the LITACs, that is CTX GAL NAC based LITACs and CTX M6PL based LITACs, both of them successfully degrade EGFR. We can see from the trackers also, the red is for EGFR, where the EGFR has been degraded with respect. They have also done the intensity study to show it. Uh, Here also we see that the EGFR has been degraded when only CTX is applied. Not much degradation has been happened, but other cases when LITAC is applied, there is a lot of degradation. So now they have also proved the same using the Western blot experiment. So Western blot experiment is done like that. It is a experiment for detection of proteins. We have proteins, and in the proteins we give some enzymes or antibody which are specific for the protein. When they bind to the protein, they will give a stain, and this stain will be proportional to the amount of protein present in the sample. So the darker the stain it is, the more protein is present. And here they have observed EGFR degradation. We see that the LITACs are very useful for EGFR degradation. Intensity has reduced a lot, and they've also done this study where they have not with, and here we observe a funny fact is that this both LITACs almost have the same activity. They have this almost have the same activity. So using these two LITACs, the next question will be that how long, I mean, what amount and how long does this LITACs require for this degradation to complete, and what is the optimum concentration or the time? For that, they have done an experiment. They have taken cell lines and they have given this various doses of LITAC, 0.1 nanomolar and 1 nanomolar and 10 nanomolar, and they have seen what is the result. And they have seen here that the 10 nanomolar dose, the best EGFR degradation happens it is most effective there. And then what they have, after getting the 10 nanomolar, they put another experiment that they applied 10 nanomolar dosage for other cell lines, and now for various time frames they see that in they saw that in 48 hours the maximum degradation was taking place. Now when this thing they have, now we have shown that EGFR is degraded, it is degraded a maximum at 10 nanomolar concentration in 48 hours. So what is this pathway of degradation? How is the degradation happening? Is ASGPR involved? For this for this thing, they did a competition assay. They took a cell line and then they treated it with siRNA. This siRNA, the targeting ASGPR. So there is mRNA of ASGPR in the cytoplasm. The siRNA goes and binds with the mRNA, and the mRNA now becomes inactive. It cannot produce any more protein. So we don't get receptors on ASGPR receptor is not there on the surface. So the receptors have been knocked out. After knocking out, if we administer LITAC, we won't see any protein degradation. This is what precisely happened. They showed using Western blot that when they applied siRNA which targeted ASGPR, there is no degradation of protein via LITAC. So ASGPR is needed for this purpose. They conducted another experiment also in the same lines where they have not knocked out the receptors but they have blocked the receptors. How come this is possible? They take a they take the cell line, they use the receptor blocker, and this will be same. The receptors have all fulfilled their valency, so if the LITAC is applied, they won't go inside the cell for protein degradation. And this is also via intensity study. We see that the same thing has happened. The LITAC is not able to degrade the protein, so ASGPR mediated internalization is important. So in the previous paper, what they have done is that they have proved that this mannose 6 phosphonate based LITAC can actually internalize into the cell via clathrin mediated endocytosis. Here also they wanted to show that the is the LITAC going via clathrin mediated endocytosis or not. So for this purpose, they took the cell, they took a receptor inhibitor, and they blocked those receptors. And they administered LITAC to see if the LITAC the protein degradation happens or not. So in the Western blot experiment, they have here the receptor block inhibitor used are baphyllomycin A1 and chloroquine. When they have applied by Western blot, they see that there has been no protein degradation using the LITAC. So we see that the LITACs are internalized into the cell via ASGPR receptor using clathrin mediated endocytosis. So this happened. Now we are trying to figure out that if we want to make the LITAC cell specific, I mean the LITACs will cure specific cancer cells only. We'll try to control cancer in specific cells only. So what did they do to show this experiment? Yeah, they took two cell lines, HEP3B and HeLa-GFP. HEP3B cell lines have three of the receptors, that is they have ASGPR, EGFR and M6PR. And HeLa cells only has EGFR and M6PR. So when they are co-cultured together, they will express the EGFR cell, and when the LITACs are administered inside the cell, so they will degrade the EGFR. So what happens is that this CTX M6P and LITAC, it is since mannose 6 phosphate receptor is present in both of the cells, it will degrade the EGFR in both the cells. So this will be a non-specific degradation. But when CTX gal-NAC-based LITAC is applied, but as HeLa cells has no ASGPR receptor, so there it can't go inside the cell, and so in HeLa cells the EGFR will be present. This is precisely what happened. So when they measured the relative surface EGFR using this intensity study, they observed is that when they use this gal-NAC-based CTX LITAC, they see that in HeLa cells it is not able to degrade this degraded EGFR. So we see that the CTX gal-NAC is specific, whereas the CTX M6PN is non-specific. And after now they have shown is that the LITAC cells can degrade cells, can degrade proteins in a cell specific manner. They also internalize via this clathrin mediated and endocytosis. The next is the LITAC applicable for any antibody protein combination? I mean, if is the LITAC able to degrade any other protein in any other cell line? For that, they have used this. They've chosen this HER2 protein. The HER2 protein has its own antibody PTZ which binds to it. So they have used the PTZ they have used the PTZ, and they have used this linker to synthesize the PTZ gal NSC LITAC, and they have seen if this is able to degrade the HER2 protein or not. And while if we visualize the results by live cell confocal imaging, we see that PTZ gal NSC is able to degrade HER2 protein more than PTZ only. So this is successful. They have also shown this result via this Western blotting experiment. And now, after we have seen that this works for any antibody protein combination, any and proteins which are receptors here. So what if we use another protein here? I mean, this time the protein will be a peptide binding protein if we use such kind of synthetic protein. So they chose here the PIP protein, that is the polyspecific integrin binding protein. This can bind to the integrins. The integrin molecules are very important in carcinoma cells. They help in tumor progression and proliferation of the cells. They even help in metastasis. So here, what they did is that they took this PIP so the PIP protein is very important. It binds to all the integrins, kind of stops the integrin activities. So the PIP protein, what they did is that they took an azide and attached it with PIP, and then they took this ligand, that ASGPR binding ligand. This has a strained alkyne chain. They both undergo click reaction, and this PIP gal NAC LITAC is formed. So after this PIP gal NAC LITAC they are forming, does this PIP LITAC really degrade the integrins? For this purpose, they observed it. Now they observed integrin levels of two alpha mu beta 5 and alpha mu beta 3 integrins. These integrins are, I mean, they are more expressed in the surface of the cells, and they are more easier to detect. There are other integrins which are not that easier to detect, but the PIP can bind to them. And there is the intensity results is that the PIP gal NSC is more effective than PIP alone. So this LITAC is actually very effective. After they have degraded the integrins. So what happens to cell proliferation? Is the cell proliferating or not? For that, they did another experiment where they took the cancer cells and they saw that if there was no LITAC, what will happen? And if they administered LITAC, so what will happen? Now, this is the intensity result is that this is the uncontrolled growth where no LITAC was administered, and then they started increasing the dose of the LITAC. When we see in 200 nanometer dosage, we see of dosage of PIP gal NAC, we see that the proliferation has gone into negative. That means the cancer cells have stopped growing. So the cancer is now, the proliferation is under control. So how much time is the proliferation under control? For that, they did a time dependent study with this 200 nanometer dose. So they applied 200 nanometer dose, and they saw that up to 45 hours also this proliferation is not happening. This is a long time it is sustained. It has not controlled the proliferation. So after this experiment, what they did is that they did another experiment where they have treated the cells with LITAC and PIP and all those, and they have taken untreated cells. They have washed out the media which contain the PIP and the PIP LITAC, and after that uh, they have again grown those cells in other cell plates and to see if the proliferation, what the status of the proliferation. What they observed is that this LITAC is very effective. Even after washout, the cells are not proliferating like before. So they are controlling the proliferation. Now they check the morphology of what happened to the morphology of the cancer cells. So the cancer cells, how they grow is that they grow like islands. They grow like clusters, one on top of another. So they form islands, and in day 5 in the cell plate, we observe they have formed huge islands. But when they are treated with PIP, they have formed small islands. and they form not that much big island, but they still form big islands at the end of day 5. But when they are treated with LITACs, we see that almost no island formation happens even at day 5. So the LITACs are controlling the cancer. And now the next step they wanted to see is that there are various sites in the antibody. So which site, when the if we conjugate the ligand, the targeting ligand in one of those sites, so which site will be more effective? So they now started, they now did the site specific conjugation of the ligand. They chose this antibody, that is CTX or PTZ, and they have taken three sites. First, they conjugated in C terminus, then in conjugated in hinge, and then it conjugated in CH1 heavy chain. They are conjugated in CH1 heavy chain. And then they tried to see which of these LITACs are more effective in degrading the protein. So they did an activity test using the Western blot, and they observed for two proteins, EGFR and HER2. In the case of EGFR, they see this CTX trigal 10 units is very effective, and also this C terminal trigal is very effective. These two are the most effective in HER2 degradation. This of PTZ trigal NSE 11 unit is most effective, and PTZ hinge trigal NSE is one of more effective in this case. So these two are the more effective, and these two are the more effective ones. And so after they have prepared these LITACs, now the next will be that we have prepared the LITACs. We have all done the in vivo experiment, and we have seen that these work in the in vivo. But what will happen they work in the in vitro. But if for this treatment to go on and have pharmaceutical applications, we have to see if this works in an animal model or not. For that, they did an in vivo LITAC stability study. In this case, they took BAL C mice and they injected the CTX and CTX gal NSC conjugates into the mice, and they observed uh, they took the plasma of the mice and observed the antibody levels in it. So how the LITAX level in it, so how much it is stable or not. So in case of CH1 heavy chain, they observe it is quite stable till 7 in the blood plasma till 72 hours, and also for C terminals it is highly stable for 72 hours. And then they also did the Western blotting experiment. Here they observed one thing is that the CTX gal NSE 10 units, this LITAC is not found in any of this experimental data, even in 6 hour, 24 hour, 48 hours, 72 hours. Though this band is not visible. This band is not visible. What they have said is that this maybe this LITAC is being used up very fast in the bloodstream, so it is not there in the bloodstream. Maybe the entire thing has gone for degradation of proteins. So they also, after the 72-hour experiment is complete, they took out the organs of the mice, and they took out two organs, liver and spleen, and to see that where the LITACs are accumulating. So they saw that in spleen the LITACs are not accumulating, but the most of the LITACs are accumulating in the liver. So we can say is that this we have prepared this LITAC, this GAL NAC, this LITAC, were which were supposed to be specific. So they are specifically now targeting a organ. So they can be actually help to control this liver cancer. So these LITACs are quite promising for a future pharmaceutical studies. So in conclusion, I would like to say that is that this in this paper they have prepared in this work they have prepared a LITACs which are cell specific, the, which do cell specific protein degradation in the cells. They also are they can be for any antibody protein pair, and they can also bind to integrin proteins and stop proliferation of cancer cells. They can also they are quite stable in rat mice plasma. They can be in the ligands can be conjugated in various sites, and they have quite good stability in the in plasma. So I would like to thank Valence again for allowing me this opportunity to give this talk. And I would like to thank the BICAN lab members also. They have guided me to do this for this presentation. And thank you. And we are now ready to take the questions.
Yeah, Taiti, thank you very much for that. Really enlightening presentation. I mean, you have done a fantastic job of condensing such a huge line of work and like such depth and such conceptual experiments that have been presented in the paper. You have presented it really beautifully and in a very concise manner. And I mean, I'm really amazed to see the Litex. Like I have not heard of Litex previously, and like it's really amazing to see the amount of work and the new novel ideas that are coming up, and it would be really interesting to see how this further progresses. So yeah, as she said, we are now open for questions. So please raise your hands or type in the chat box, and yeah. So Soumyajit Gayan has raised a hand. Soumyajit, yes, please go ahead.
Hello, Saiti. First of all, thank you for such a enlightening presentation. Just, I had few specific questions. My first question is, obviously, as you said, the Litex is a conjugation. We can say it is a conjugation with the linker between two parts. Like it has two parts. One is the protein binding part, another is a receptor binding part. So my general question would be, does it vary cell to cell, like the spacing of the linker which we are choosing, the length of the linker, or does it vary cell to cell inside a body, and also among organisms? Like maybe in mice, it might be a different linker, or size may be different. So is there any information about that?
The linker information is like that. The linker is receptor specific. I mean, you were talking about this linker, right?
Yeah, I mean the size of the linker. Like, if you say in a cell, on the cell membrane, maybe the receptor is at one end, and the protein is some parts away, like some distance away. So the linker size may vary, right? So is there any measure to that, or is it fixed? Or or in the paper, is there any reference which says that the linker size is fixed and the distance between the receptor and the protein is fixed, so that we are using a fixed size linker?
No, they are using various type. I mean, in an antibody, firstly they are doing this linker conjugation in various parts. So there was one antibody in the this one Litex in the last experiment where there was 10 units, right? So there were 10 sites which were conjugated with by this linker. So the antibody will bind, and then I kind of lost it.
Yeah, so
Okay,
I want to say, is that
so
10 fixed?
Yes,
Yeah,
Siddharth
Siddharth
Bhaiya
Bhaiya, can you please?
so what Somajit is asking is basically if we are changing the linker length, like what if the so here we are targeting M6PR or ASGPR, and our target membrane protein is whether it is near or far away. How do we know that? So the answer to that is that they're well distributed on the cell membrane, right? There is very high possibility that you will have one, your target membrane protein near to your EGFR, ASGPR, or it might be far away. And if something is far away, there is a high possibility it might also have a SGPR nearer to it. Okay, so they have not done any studies where they have changed the linker size, as it's immaterial. It doesn't matter if you use a long chain linker or a short. Obviously, a long chain linker is preferable to a short chain one, but that's the basic thing, right? It's well distributed. It doesn't matter what size of the linker you are using.
Right.
I think what you meant to say is that what if they are like M6PR or SGPR is present at one place and the target membrane protein is at other place? It's not like that. They are well distributed.
Yeah. See, I raised this point because I have a very genuine doubt. So that's my second question. Thing is, we know this EGFR, and there are some other receptors which we can target in this specific manner, but they are expressed in all cells, but more in cancer cells. So my question is, in a general cell, it may be present, but it will be more in cancer cells. So, that's something. So it would affect the specificity of this Litex. Secondly, what I'm saying, the overexpression of many receptors like this happen not just in cancer, but in other cases like stress in ER, endoplasmic reticulum stress, and other cases like diabetes or so and so forth. With my limited knowledge of biology, I'm saying. So how would we regulate the specificity? Maybe I want to target a cancer cell, but the same amount of receptors, maybe not totally same, but in the same range, same amount of receptors are present in another cell which is having ER stress, not necessarily cancer. So in that
Okay,
case, I would have felt the linker length might be a cause of worry.
No, so what you have to understand is that this cancer targeting, killing cancer cells using different kinds of drug, it always has these side effects. No matter what kind of drug you use, it's not going to be specific for the cancer cells. Okay, what we do rely upon is the high proliferation rates of cancer cells. So they replicate really fast, and owing to that, they express these receptors in huge amount. Take for example a normal cell. It is going to have, let's say, 10 receptors, 10 units of a particular receptor. If you look at the same cancerous version of that particular cell, it might be expressed 1,000 times more, or even hundreds and 1,000 times more. So that's what we are looking at. So if you have, if you go to a place, there are 10 gates through which you can enter. So obviously the crowd is going to be more over there. It's going to be much open up. More people will be going to that place. But if you have just a single gate, obviously the number of people going to that particular place is going to be less. Or anyway, some will obviously go to the place where there is one gate. So you will get some of these non-specific effects. It's persistent. There is no medication. There is no therapeutic which can specifically target cancer cells. There's always going to be non-specific effects, and you can't change that. It's going to be there. Because ultimately cancer cells are normal cells, which are just more, just have the power of proliferation. That's basically it.
Right.
I hope I can get the message through.
Yeah. That was really fine. Okay, so the last question which I had in mind is there any reference regarding cancer cells just does not have receptors? They have high negative charge in their membrane and other such characteristics. So is there a possibility that the lytex will be broken via reactions with those, like high acidic nature inside the cell and high negative charge, the charge in the cell membrane? Like I think we might not know, but is there any reference or some explanation to it that it is not degraded?
Look, so I don't think there's going to be any such of unwanted reactions within the cell, because anyway, if you look at the linker, maximum there are these peptide bonds which need a peptidase to to be broken down. There's not going to be enough of the reactive conditions are not going to be suitable enough to break down these peptide bonds within in normal condition where there is no peptidase. So there are not going to, I'm pretty sure there are not going to be any side reaction which will break down the linker and as a result in the dissociation of the N-acetylglucosamine from the protein. So that's not going to happen for certain. And obviously negative charge, I don't think it's going to play a role in degrading the linker or the lytex. So that's it.
Yeah. So regarding to that, there was one condition mice, right, in which they showed that the lytex was used up. So I thought maybe that was the case, like side reactions are going on. So is it not similar to that?
Lytex, they can be used up in other ways, right? So side reaction in this case might be degradation by some enzymes. I see that, as I mentioned earlier, there are these peptide bonds which can be broken down by peptidases, and obviously when this non-specific lytex are used up was shown in the in vivo case, I think. So obviously when you are injecting something in vivo, you can't guarantee that everything will go to one particular place. The body is a huge reaction vessel. Multiple reactions are going up everywhere. But if you can target like at least 20% of the material that you're putting into one particular place, that's a great achievement. That's what that's what most groups who focus on therapeutics delivery are trying to do. When you take a medicine, it's not specific, it goes everywhere. So if you can, even if you can achieve 40% targeting of a medicine to a particular place, that's going to be amazing. You'll get a Nobel Prize. That's what it basically is. So it can end up anywhere, and get degraded or undergo side reactions. That's it. You can control these things always.
Right. Yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot. it clarified many things. Yeah.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Any statements, any comments?
So if no one else has any question, can I ask one?
Sure, go ahead.
So like it's not a question specifically based on the paper or something, but I wanted to know, like, since they tried it, like they tried this uh, Litex against cancer. So like, do we have examples of Litex or similar, chimeras being used for therapeutics against other diseases or other kind of protein, like abnormal proteins which might be present in other common diseases or something? Can you shed some light on that?
Yeah, so this is actually the second report on Litex. There was so in 2020, Bhattoji Group published the first report on this Litex-based system, which target extracellular proteins. If there is some wrong protein or some defective proteins in the extracellular matrix, you can basically take it to the nucleus and degrade it. And since this is a developing field for the timing, like Litex is not even a year old, so obviously there will be groups elsewhere who will be working on finding more use of Litex, and definitely people will be trying to see if it can be used for treating other diseases. But apart from Litex, the precursor of these systems called Protex, which are which result in degradation of these proteins in within the cytosol itself. So these Protect systems have been applied across a lot of diseases to degrade the abnormal proteins. They basically target these intracellular proteins to ubiquitinases or even these proteases, which can chop them down. If and basically decrease their effect. And so these have been widely explored, Protect system. But Litex is pretty new, and hardly there are some 5-10 reports still yet, as far as I know. I may be wrong, but it's very few reports. But pretty and also, yeah, so as Vasudha said, recently, like after publishing this Litex paper, Bhattoji Group has started this startup called Lycia, which aims at developing such systems based on these chimeras, which can help, which can make which can be used as a therapeutic media for different diseases, including cancer, as shown in this particular paper. So it's like it's $1 million, again, as you mentioned, $1 million startup. It's a big thing actually. Definitely this thing is going it's going to go really ahead. So.
Yeah, exactly. The basis of my asking this question was, I was thinking like in Alzheimer's and all, we know that this A beta proteins and tau proteins build up inside the cells. So I was thinking maybe if like many therapeutics are being tried but not very successful. So if something can be done against like tau proteins and this A beta proteins using Litex, that would be really.
Yeah, definitely. There would be groups somewhere in the world, trying to answer that. And these Litex are not that new a system. This is a specific case of these chimeras, right? There are reports of several other chimeras, not basically like here. Litex basically targets these proteins to the lysosome so that they can be degraded. But there are other reports of such chimeras which can help in reducing a protein amount or help in degrading it, not specifically take it to the lysosome. So there are multiple reports on that. You can use these chimeras to phosphorylate some proteins or even induce glycosylation of some proteins. It's a very wide field, these chimeras. Amazing stuff.
Exactly. The Protex which you mentioned, even that. So, thank you for that.
Okay, we have another question in the chat box by Arindam Pal. He asks why Litex are accumulated specifically in liver. Like, is there some special receptor or something?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that again?
Like, he's asking why Litex specifically accumulate in liver. Like, is there some special receptor or something?
That's what we said right in the beginning. So these Litex are targeting ASGPR receptor, which is overly expressed in liver cancer cells. So that's why, and obviously since it's expressed in the liver cancer cells, it's going to be expressed in higher amounts in liver. So that's what that's what leads to the accumulation of latex in the liver. Yeah. Okay.
Basudha has mentioned like HEPG2 liver cancer cells.
Yeah, yeah, obviously. So HepG2 is a cancer cell line, liver cancer cell line that they have used throughout the paper. So basically, the whole idea of the paper is for targeting liver cancer, right? And so that's it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So like if there were some like there could be some other like targets in some other cancers, and then you could always try to modify your linker for those, right?
Definitely, you use different kind of antibodies which will target a specific receptor expressed in that particular cancer cell, and then you go ahead. So like here they have shown this ASGPR. You can also target CIMPR for breast cancer cells where these are heavily expressed. So it's a you can do a lot of things.
Thank you. So does anybody have any other questions as well?
Hello.
Okay, so okay, there's like okay, Aditya, go ahead, I guess.
Yeah, it's just I have a question here. So, in actually, it's so this so LITAC targets this protein and cell receptor pair, right? So, pairs are like overexpressed. So distance between and overexpressed and okay, overexpressed, and since they are overexpressed, you have a lot of number of these proteins and receptor pairs on the membrane. So their distance between them is going to be short. If you have a normal cell, these are not expressed as in high amounts. So the distance between them might be longer. So let's suppose we decrease the distance of the linker. Okay, let's suppose we decrease the distance of the linker in LITAC. Will it be specifically target only respect to cancer cells? Since this I mean like since the proteins since this proteins and receptor pair is overly expressed in cancer cells, that distance might be like shorter. So shorter link only bind if these pairs are more nearer to each other as in cancer cells. So will it make it more specific to cancer cells? So that was my doubt.
Okay, so let me get this straight. So you're asking if you increase the linker size, it is going to be more non-specific than a shorter linker.
Yeah, somewhat. Yeah, same. Like I was like, if you decrease the linker size, it will be specific to the cancer cells. So that was my thing.
Yeah, it might be, but I'm not sure. Again, this is a proposition which needs to be verified through experiments. It might happen, It's a perfectly reasonable thought process, and it might happen. You never know. Someone has to try that out, check the effect of linker length on the specificity of the LITAC as a whole, and see what happens. Obviously, you need a lab setup for that, work out the experiments, but your reasoning is perfectly fine. So no problem there.
Thank you for answering.
Okay, so
there's another question in the chat box. Shrijita asks if like how they have done the dose dependent degradation of EGFR. So how do they know the optimum dose size?
Oh, okay. That's a simple one. So basically, you take the cells, incubate them with your LITAC, or you add different take cells in different containers, and then add different amounts of LITACs to that. Incubate it for a specific period of time. Now, after that, you wash out the cells, take the cells and lyse them, break it open. After breaking it open, you centrifuge it to collect, if you centrifuge it at a particular speed at some particular conditions, you can actually separate out the EGFR from the lysed cell material. Now you take that precipitate and then do a Western blot or a STS space to determine how much amount of this EGFR is present. And from that, you will know at what different concentration, like how much of the EGFR is getting degraded. And at the you screen this at different concentration, and at that particular concentration where you get 0 EGFR is the optimum concentration that you want. That's what they do basically.
Thank you. Yeah, so anybody else with any comments? Okay, seems like there are none. So thank you all for attending and sticking around through the long discussion session. Tahiti, it was an amazing talk, and then Siddharth Bhaiya, the explanations, the clarifications were amazing. So thank you for that.